Hello and welcome back to the Chargers Check-In. My name is Cecilia and the Chargers have made some moves. Free agency has begun. It is very exciting, and obviously the headlining news is Khalil Mack is back. 1 year, $18 million, fully guaranteed. Yes, he is overpaid. Yes, I'm fine with that. I think this is a really good move from the Chargers. He will likely retire a Charger, which is a big deal. He's had previously split his time evenly among different teams. And, if you ask, well, what team is Khalil Mack really going to be remembered for? I think now the answer is the Chargers, and that's very exciting. And, considering that the Bears and Raiders, the two teams he had played for, are both in need of edge rushers, this is a really good signing, and I think it's great to not let him hit free agency. I think the fact that he didn't choose to go and explore the market suggests that he believes in the Chargers and he believes in O'Leary, he believes in Harbaugh and Herbert with McDaniel, which I think is very exciting. And, we've talked about how the Chargers need to draft Khalil Mack's replacement regardless of if they re-sign him. That's still true. But if they can draft his replacement while Khalil is there, then that replacement will get all the benefits of his mentorship. That's something that Tuli Tuipulotu has talked about a lot, how important it was to have two veterans in Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack helping him. Khalil Mack for more years, and that has helped Tuli evolve into a more vocal leader. It has helped him with his pass rush. It's helped him with his understanding of the defense. And since we're getting that defensive continuity under Chris O'Leary from Jesse Minter, I think this is a really good move. Now, this comes after the Chargers unsurprisingly cut Mekhi Becton and Will Dissly. Harbaugh used Dissly less than he could have last year. I definitely appreciate his contributions, especially in 2024 when Hayden Hurst didn't really work out. But I think no one is surprised about cutting Mekhi Becton. I think we all saw that coming. It's a good move. It is what they should do. And the Chargers now officially need those interior positions filled. 2 interior positions, not 3, because the Chargers also have signed a center. It is Tyler Biadasz. They signed him for 3 years, $30 million. We don't quite know all of the details, but the 2026 cap hit is only $4.2 million. 2027 is almost $13 million. 2028 will be $13 million. So the Chargers have their center for the next 3 years, and I really like this signing. So the Chargers have started to make a lot of moves. We're going to get into all that. Please like and subscribe if you like what you see. I'm also covering the draft as well as these free agent moves that the Chargers are making. I will post mock drafts soon. I wanted to wait for some of the first chips to fall, and I'm very excited about the ones that have. The Chargers have now signed Tyler Biadasz, and starting center is set. The Bills just managed to re-sign Connor McGovern, so that pushes Tyler Linderbaum's market even further. One of the reasons that I didn't want to get into maybe the top 10 centers available and only went into the top 5 is because there's always cuts, there's always trades, there's always a few surprising moves. And, I was surprised when the Bears center retired, and we have seen moves like this. I'm going to be honest, I was really surprised that the Commanders cut this guy. I thought he was on a really fair deal. I thought he was an above average player, above average center, certainly worth more than they were paying him. And they now enter a really competitive center market. Maybe on some level, it was just him and Jaden Daniels weren't working together well, or maybe there's something small behind the scenes. Because by all accounts, he seems like a good person and locker room kind of guy. But, maybe they just needed a change, or they, for whatever reason, really believe that they're the team that's going to get Tyler Linderbaum, and that is worth the kind of poor cap management that comes with it. But as soon as they cut him, I thought, yep, that's a Joe Ortiz signing. Because he was cut, he doesn't count against the comp pick formula, obviously a really big deal. This all happened really fast, but for a center, you got to look at it from Tyler Biadasz's perspective, and I'm not sure it gets much better than Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel, who is going to utilize your particular skill set really well. He's an athletic center, and I think, usually you ask for offensive linemen, do they favor pass protection? Do they favor run defense more? He is someone who I think is really balanced in his game, which is really exciting to me. He's solid in run blocking, solid in pass protection. He's a veteran player, which I appreciate for Herbert. And, he has a better anchor than he should at his size, which is very good. And he's very technically sound. I think his pass protection has really, it took a little while to come online in the NFL, but it's something he's really developed. And it's a 3-year deal that allows them to draft a center in a later round or draft a flexible interior offensive lineman that they can see as their center of the future, but they don't have to invest higher capital in it. They can afford to take a better player earlier, which is an ideal situation to be in. Pick someone with traits who isn't quite pro ready, someone with less experience, but who fits the general profile that you want. That could be Pat Coogan from Indiana. That could be Matt Gilbin from Michigan State. One of these day 3 kind of guys who can be depth pieces and be starters of the future down the line, looking at 2028, if something doesn't work out with Tyler Biadasz, 2027. But at least for 2026, you are set and you have an opportunity to train someone behind a really good starting center. So I think this is an awesome signing. It's so good for the cap. It immediately solves the center problem, gives them lots of flexibility, especially, they need to go and sign another interior offensive lineman. Ideally, they sign 2 starters, but certainly they need a starter with really strong upside. And now they have the cap room to go and do that. They still have about $75 million in cap. That's going to be adjusted on Over the Cap in the next few days as details come out. They don't have source for that yet, but they're in a good spot to solve the offensive line in this offseason ahead of the draft, which I think is really important. And then if the best player on your board happens to be an offensive lineman in those first 2 rounds, then you take them, but you're not forced to draft a starter. You are instead, you do have to draft depth pieces, but that's something that they only have to do that because they haven't been doing that in recent years. So I like this signing a lot. I think it's really exciting. I love how quickly it happened, and that, shows that it's a really good fit for both sides. And I really like where the Chargers are signing Khalil Mack, signing Tyler Biadasz. I like it. Now, the next question, Odafe Oweh. Right? That is someone I've said they need to prioritize him over Mack. But if you're Odafe Oweh, you're thinking, well, obviously I'm going to go test the market. There's rumors it could be up to, 24 million, 25 million. And that's a big leap over what Odafe Oweh maybe is more objectively worth. He had some really rough years at the beginning of his career. And then he goes to the Chargers who, yeah, you're playing across from Khalil Mack from Thule. Like, yeah, you're gonna play a little better across from them. And then you're playing really well under this coach, Jesse Minter, and then this coach leaves. If we don't have Jesse Minter, if we don't have a fantastic defensive line program through their position coach like the Chargers get to have with Mike Elston, is he really worth that? So if I were other teams, I wouldn't really be jumping on this the way other teams seem to be. But if you're Odafe Oweh, you have to go and take that chance, and maybe the Chargers re-sign you, maybe they don't, but I think there's a reason that there's reports coming out that the Chargers really loved scouting R. Mason Thomas. He's an edge rusher that'll be in this draft. If they trade back from pick number 22 into the second round, I think R. Mason Thomas is someone that would make sense as a pick for that range. And, I'm higher on him than I was before the combine, because at the combine, he played really well, and, he doesn't have a whole lot of pass rush moves, but he's so good at what he does that you have to believe there's a lot of potential. If you believe in your coaching staff to expand that capability, I certainly do for the Chargers. And, I loved his interviews, and on second watch of his film, obviously his motor is great. I think his run defense kind of stood out to me a bit. Like, okay, this guy is a lot less one-dimensional than I thought. And that's something that if you're looking for someone to be your Khalil Mack of the future, run defense is the number one thing. That's something you have to look at. You have to prioritize. So I think he can be a big impact player in, maybe the second half of his rookie year. I just thought that was interesting, and maybe indicates that Odafe Oweh signing isn't, it's not guaranteed. I think it could go either way, and it depends on Odafe Oweh testing the market and seeing what he finds and how badly he wants to be, on the team that really unlocked his skill set, on the team he has been at his best with. There's obviously rumors that he could go to the Ravens, stick with Jesse Minter. I'm not sure he'd want to go back to a front office and also, team that he was kind of rejected by, and a fan base that is very, very unreasonably negative on him. When there's millions on the line, anything could happen. The next bit of free agency news, the Chargers signed Alec Ingold. He's the fullback from Miami. He was cut, so again, no comp pick negatives, which I think is a big deal for Joe Ortiz. As soon as he was cut, it was like, yeah, they're going to get him in the building and they're going to see if they can work something out. And they did. He will likely be the highest paid fullback in the league. It's not a very expensive position, so it makes sense to lock that down. I think this is a move just in favor of a faster, more athletic guy who can get out in space kind of blocker. And it could indicate Scott Matlock just doesn't quite fit into this roster. That makes sense. He improved a lot over the last year, but Mike McDaniel's looking for something very different. And Ingold can catch passes. He can run the ball in certain situations. Matlock just... yeah, he caught a couple passes, and I liked what I saw, but that is not why you have Scott Matlock. So it's not a big impact signing, but I think it's a great move. I think it's an upgrade, a very clear upgrade in run blocking. And hey, the Chargers now have those two former Wisconsin teammates together in Tyler Biadasz and Alec Ingold. So I think that's great. So that's what I have for free agent signings as of right now. When I'm recording this, I promise I'm up to date. By the time I post it, who knows? I'll put things in the description and in the comments as information comes in, and I'll be covering things throughout the week to the extent that I can. There are rumors to talk about otherwise. One coming from several sources is just that the Chargers are really scouting all of the nose tackles in this draft, particularly ones who are likely to go top 100. Trevor Sikkema said a few times now that Harbaugh had this huge smile on his face watching Caleb Banks, who is a very real possibility at pick number 22. I think, some people have him going higher than that. I don't love him for most teams in that range, but what Mike Elston could do with Caleb Banks is pretty exciting. Very traitsy player. So Mike Elston is also a reason that this is kind of going around. He has been very involved in scouting as well. In, everywhere that coaches are going to scout, Mike Elston has been right there. I'm confident in what he could do with Caleb Banks, with Peter Woods, if they take that at 22. Other rumors of interest are the Chargers showing a lot of interest in Kalen Rutledge, who is the guard out of Georgia Tech. I'm higher on him than most people. I think he can move really well, and I think the Combine kind of confirmed that. He's so strong. I think he's scheme versatile. I think they wouldn't have to take him in the top 40. And so you're more likely to be in a best player available situation where those top picks you can go and get, whether it's a safety, a corner, an edge, whatever it is that they want, defensive tackle, potentially tight end. So I do think that we're in a position where if they keep signing offensive linemen, that's great. They need to draft someone anyway. And I think while Rutledge could start right away, I would like some competition. I would like it if, whoever you draft doesn't have to start right away. And then you also have some insurance for if the person you drafted isn't the starter, you can give him some time to develop, and then if the free agent gets injured, you're still in a really good position and you feel better going forward. So he is someone I definitely think the Chargers should have their eye on. And so far, I really like their free agency approach. I want to see one more guard signing that is ideally toward the top of the market. I think when you sign a really good deal with Tyler Biadasz, I think you're just in a good spot to have one of the best offensive lines in the league if you can get just one more really, really good splash signing at guard. And then I am okay with kind of, signing someone who is mid to lower tier. And after that, I'd be fine with them taking someone in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, just get more guys in the room, fill out the depth chart. And obviously they're going to be signing a few more free agents in that regard as well. They should also be looking at free agent wide receivers, corners, tight ends, defensive linemen, and edge rushers. Any way you can round out the roster ahead of the draft is how you set yourself up for the best return on investment, which is what happens when you're able to draft the best player available. If they make a splash move from here on out, I would be really surprised if it wasn't guard, if that wasn't the next thing that they're prioritizing, because that's by far the most important move that they need to make. After that, I think defensive linemen. I think defensive linemen from this draft are going to be great value for the Chargers, considering how good that position coaching is, where offensive line, it's like, yeah, Butch Berry is good. We don't know how he is here with the Chargers, with what McDaniel wants to do with Justin Herbert. And so, yeah, put all the resources toward the offensive line, which they have started the process of, which makes me very happy. Oh, and can we sign Tony Jefferson? What are we doing? Sign this man. Sign him right away. He is good for 3 freak interceptions and at least 2 concussions for running backs on the other team. So let's bring him back. I want him back. I think he's important to that room. I think he's good for RJ Mickens. $75 million left in cap. They should be able to solve offensive line. They should be able to upgrade the defensive line, allow themselves to draft weapons, allow themselves to draft maybe a corner, a safety, a linebacker, one of these positions that might just be best player available because of the strength of the draft in those spots. So with every signing, we get closer to that. And, you want to be able to afford to take those positions that you always kind of delay, you don't prioritize in free agency. And then when it comes down to it, it's those little things that end up making the difference over the course of an entire season. So I really like where the Chargers are. I think we're going to get a lot of good and exciting news this week. I will be back to cover it as best I can. I'll keep up to date in the description of this video as best I can as well. But if you liked what you've seen, please like and subscribe. Shout out to my members, as always, who get exclusive and early content. And I will see you guys next time.